Welcome back to the North American LCS Championship Sunday. I'm Rivington Bills in the third, and this is Joshua Jat Leesman, as always, and forever.
Thank you very much.
Now it's time for the fight for first place and $50,000. It's Team Solo Mid versus Good Game University.
TSM comes into this match as the top seed in the playoffs and the hottest team in the LCS. They've only lost 3 games since Wild Turtle joined their team in Week 6.
But GGU has been on their own tear in the second half of the season, jumping all the way from 8th place in Week 7 to a shot at the title now.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know this, but even though GGU's wins were technically upsets, since the beginning of Week 7, GGU has the second best record in North American LCS, only to TSM. But TSM is 4-0 against GGU, including the Week 10 victory when GGU tried to run a poke comp with Daydream. And so this is like experience versus total inexperience in the sense of being in big game finals.
And while these teams do have very different levels of tournament experience, Good Game University and Team Solo Mid have very similar champion pools, if you will. And the fight for the title will begin for the battle for their favorite champions.
And I've picked out like 5 champions or so that I think are going to be the most highly contested. The first being Karthus. Nearly every game with these 2 teams has had Karthus. Reginald's Karthus is incredibly potent, and Jintae's played a lot of Karthus as well. Nasus in the jungle as well will be the #1 priority, I think, for both of these guys. Odd One's Nasus just controlling the game,
Absolutely.
or Nintendo's Nasus. He brings Flash on it as well with his utility spec just to run faster. I asked him about that. And then there's Jace. So Zion Spartan has drawn 4 Jace bans against him. It was played once against him. If Jace is available and not picked, 100% going for him. He thinks it's a free win. Then there's Caitlyn, which was picked by Wild Turtle in both of TSM's victories, and it gets banned against Don't Mash Me a lot. And of course, we can't forget about Thresh, who's been banned against Daydream 5 times and picked against him once. They do not want him with that champion.
Each lane gets love and share of champions here.
It's just a matter of these teams knowing themselves well, and also since they've been so successful with specific strategies, it's now on these teams to recognize what they are and find counters for it.
Right, but no matter what happens in Champion Select today, if the North American playoffs and Good Game University have taught us one thing, it's that anything is possible.
GGU is like the dark horse team where they can either play crazy good and be like the best team in the world, or they can play like crap.
I mean, if we beat every other seed, you can definitely beat the first seed.
They beat the 3rd seed, they beat the 2nd seed, they're coming after the 1st seed. And we're not going to give it to them.
I mean, yeah, obviously the odds are against us, but it's League of Legends, anything can happen.
It's so much more fun when you don't know who can win, like the people watching and the players themselves.
We're going to look at why Dignitas and Curse fell short, and we're going to take those weaknesses and crush them to the ground.
I feel like we'd go down in history if we did beat TSM.
Not going to take us down. Or TSM.
But legacy is what you leave behind, and if we can leave something behind in something so big, that would be amazing for us.
You know, GGU saying it themselves, the fans are pushing them forward as much, and how many fans have they grabbed in these past few weeks with their wins? It's been immense.
It's been so crazy how many people are now supporting Good Game University. Even Vulcan, who just won the 3rd place match, Mandatory Cloud picked up so many new followers recently.
Absolutely. So now let's check out the lineups for the North American Championship match. Starting in the blue corner, we have Team Solo Mid. Dyrus in the top lane, the Odd One in the jungle, Reginald representing in mid, Wild Turtle on AD, and Xpecial right behind him at support.
While in the red corner, it's GGU with Zion Spartan in the top lane, Nintendo X in the jungle, Jintae in mid, Don't Mash Me on AD, and Daydreamin' on support.
And the battle of the AD carries is the featured matchup for the North American Championship Finals. It's TSM's Wild Turtle versus Good Game University's Don't Mash Me.
And both of these AD carries are on absolute fire. Both Wild Turtle and Don't Mash Me have great chemistry with their supports. By the way, they're both from Toronto as well, so it's the battle for the best AD carry in Toronto. And even though these guys have been new to their teams or had a new support with them, they've adapted and become incredibly strong in their role. Also, Don't Mash Me's Ezreal is 17-3 and 23 in their wins in the playoffs. He has been unstoppable on that Frozen Fist, Iceborne Gauntlets. Ezreal just poking all the time, keeping his distance, and he's really almost reinvented that champion to be useful again.
All right, everyone, the teams are just about ready, but before we get into Champion Select, let's see who you think is going to win the first ever North American LCS Championship.
According to LOLesports.com, 80% of you think that Team Solo Mid will walk away with the series win and the LCS spring title. So it's a lot of TSM fans, but that's definitely more GGU support than they were getting even at the start of the playoffs.
Absolutely. You know, if we look back, 2-12 at one point in the season. Now they're facing off for the championship matchup versus the 1st and the 6th seed are the fight happening right now.
Yep, I agree with that one. So we will be getting into Champion Select very quickly here. And I got to say, there's a lot of things that are going to get banned very quickly at the start of this one. I'm trying to predict, like, is GGU going to ban out Reginald in this situation? Because he's been dominating on both Diana and Karthus. And if those bans happen right away, what are they going to end up doing with that?
We'll have to see what happens. We are into that champ select. Elise and Shen have been locked out already, so we're going to see that Nintendo does draw that ban from the jungle.
That one actually really surprises me. They're definitely going, though, with a double ban on Nintendo to try to shut him down on something. Because a lot of times he will first pick Elise, but I've heard some other teams talking that they aren't necessarily really scared of his Elise impact. I think it's really just trying to take him off of his comfort zone and attack his champion pool.
Well, we have seen him getting the smitiest Smite Baron steals and mostly the objectives, so they are definitely afraid of what he can bring in to take out the Nasus, his favorite. And the Odd One has been liking that as well lately, but he's also brought Cho'Gath to the table, which has worked great for Team Solo Mid.
It's been a completely almost unknown champion during the season for the Odd One, but really impactful in the playoffs here. And it's allowed him to kind of win some of these fighting wars over junglers because it's been Jarvan and Nasus have been so highly contested junglers, and they can kind of give up on that race and just go for Cho'Gath because that's a champion that the Odd One plays that a lot of these other LCS junglers are not familiar with.
So it looks like we're going to have Sona and Thresh in this game for the supports. If they decide to go, obviously, Daydreamin does like to play some of the off supports. We've seen LeBlanc, so he may be throwing us some cool cards this time. But yes, Twisted Fate is locked in. Reginald, he brought his good deck of cards today.
Yeah, it's all in the cards for him at this point. He likes picking TF.
Yep.
And I got a little bit of flack yesterday saying he's a very good TF player because sometimes he gold cards minions, sometimes he makes some bad plays, but when he plays TF, he wins games. And that's the big important thing. He's undefeated this year on Twisted Fate.
It's good to create pressure.
He's got to work on some things with TF, but he knows how to abuse a lot of the things on the champion, even if he's not perfect at it yet.
So seeing the Thresh come out right away for Daydreaming, he says he wants that. They want the engage over the sure disengage for the fight. Sure, you got the box there, but they also go for the dive-in Nocturne, so it makes me think they're going aggression.
And there was a lot of Nocturne bans against TSM yesterday by Vulcan in the semifinal. So GGU was actually afraid that TSM was going to be picking that away as well, and since there had already been 2 bans targeted at Nintendo, it was really good of him to lock that up early.
So it looks like they take Sona, trying not to show too many hands. They get a support they want, though.
The Sona Caitlyn pick makes the most sense. That's the combination the TSM had in both of their victories in the semifinals. And it also potentially denies Don't Mash Me the lane bully that he would want in Caitlyn. And I expect him to go with an Ezreal at the end of the day if he wants to lane against that, just because that's been his fallback when he can't get Caitlyn.
Jinte pulling out a pretty dang good Orianna throughout their best of 3 the other day, but only that one time. It was, however, very impacting, so we'll see what he can do with that. They got a little safety on the dive buddy now if they choose to put another one in the top lane.
And GGU with their last pick, I think, has to get some type of dive buddy. As far as what TSM is going to be able to do, though, I'm not sure what they're going to go with their last pick here because they need to pick Odd One's jungler and Darius' top laner. Are they going to be going with... I mean, they did play a lot of Rumble, but that was against Malphite. They could go with Malphite because that is something Darius has played a lot of in the past. I mean, other than that, they've obviously gotten rid of Jace. There's no Shen. There's no Renekton. There's not too many champions for Darius to pick from. And if it's not Rumble, it would have to be something like Kha'Zix because that's the only other thing he's had a lot of success with.
Right.
And, you know, we'll just have to wait and see.
Looks like we could see the Rumble Jarvan coming in as the Odd One speaks with his team to hover over a jungler for him. He has had a lot of, like we said, good plays on that Cho'Gath. They were the wins. His loss came from Jarvan yesterday in the matchup.
And they remember that one.
Yeah.
Because they got the Cho'Gath at this point. So
they remember that. They're like, wait, that was an L, not the W.
Remember those things that we win with. Let's do more of that stuff. And they absolutely have. So speaking of what these guys have done to win, if we just try to look at what GGU has done in the top lane, they were winning with a lot of Vladimir yesterday, but they also won a game with Riven at the very start of the playoffs against Dignitas. So I don't expect him to fall too far from that stuff. There it is, man.
They do lock in the Riven. That Vladimir worked huge to them. Walking around after the games yesterday, I heard some of the players even say, where's Zion Spartan? I want to shake his hand. That was some great Vladimir play, but still feeling confident they're going to bring out the Riven. Like you said, it was done at the beginning of the playoffs, and they feel like it's good enough for now in the championship.
Zion Spartan had some really close to MVP performances last time, but I think he would have picked this Riven to buddy up with Nocturne. If he would have picked Vladimir, then Nintendo would have essentially went on his own, and they wouldn't have been able to pull off the dives they want within the team fights. You obviously look at TSM, and that's the lane TSM.
Yep.
When they win lanes, they typically win the game because they are coordinated enough to always transition in. And GGU, has just been on a rampage lately, so that this is just another one of those teams where if everyone does well individually, they're probably going to have a good game, because if Don't Mash Me gets going enough, he's going to be able to avoid everything that TSM throws at him with that Ezreal. This will be a very exciting game.
And picking up on what Dyrus had trouble with yesterday, level 3 at one point because of lane swaps, it's going to be hard for GGU kind of break that ice in the beginning of the game and figure out how they can get under Team Solo Mid's skin.
It's going to be so tough for them. They are on the red side, so if they decide to go out and just 2v2 lane, we'd probably end up seeing Don't Mash Me coming out the top lane. We got to keep in mind that Daydreamin has gotten Thresh this game, which is one of the most important things. He's only played Thresh 3 times all year. They've won every single one of those games. The only time GGU's played against Thresh, they've beaten him as well. And then there's been like 6 or 7 Thresh bans against them. I mean, that is actually, even though it wasn't first pick because there was a lot of other priorities like Twisted Fate, that's his money champion. That's one of the big reasons Daydreamin was able to find his way onto Good Game University, because he carried himself up to the top of the rankings with his Thresh and Blitzcrank play. So he is a super playmaking support, and he's on a huge playmaker champ.
I'd say that's true. A quadra kill in your first LCS game on support is pretty good. Pretty good and aggressive. We'll see if he can pull it out for his team in the championship matchup. That's where we are, ladies and gentlemen. Rivington the third, Jap bringing it to you live from Los Angeles. We are into the championship best of 5 series. Team Solo Mid versus Good Game University is underway.
And where are they going level 1? Because so many times TSM loves to just 5-man stack and invade. And if they catch out on Nintendo with that gold card, we could see a lot of trouble. There's the flash.
There's the gold card on Jinte. Everybody's going to try to get the rupture. Misses. They didn't follow up just fast enough. The gap closes it there. The last hit comes in. The first blood going to Reginald in mid.
There's the 5-stack. TSM finally makes a big-time level 1 play, and the fact that they did that so early will actually allow everyone to freely shop, buy the items, and then have that for an even bigger edge in the lane, Riv.
Oh my gosh, Boots for Reginald to start. He already has the red elixir, and they didn't even need to use any of that stuff in the beginning.
Boots is such a huge, good item for Twisted Fate. It just enhances his ganking so much, since he's really a walking stun. So if he's walking faster, that stun therefore has way more threat. If Odd One wants to come back for any type of gank in mid lane, especially since Jinte doesn't even have flash, it'll be curtains for him. He'll be out of the game if they continually gank that, and if Jinte just even leaves his tower in the slightest.
So what is going through Nintendo's head right now? He's obviously thinking, I have 2 flashes down on the carries to start the game who just got an advantage. Are those his focus now?
He's got to find creative ways to get back. The only problem with this is, even though they burned the flashes, they had time to shop and potentially buy more wards. When they see the boots on Reginald, it might tell him there will be a window to gank mid lane, and he'd want to try to attack that as well, since it is both mid laners that have the flashes down. But it is a very tricky situation for Nintendo. One wrong move, and that early advantage just cascades into an even bigger one.
So already playing with a little pressure on their side. Nintendo looks to get a full blue buff take here. He's not going to use the smite. He wants to be able to get into those lanes for his team. Looks like Mashme will send the AD carry and support mid, even without Blitzcrank this time.
They love doing this 2-person mid just because it has so much threat, and this is actually a really smart answer to what just happened at level 1. Because we were talking about how screwed Jinte would have been in this lane if he had to lane against the Boots TF, but in this situation, since they have 2 people in mid lane, that's actually pretty good gank immunity, so almost immediately TSM wants to get out of the situation so they can actually use Reginald's First Blood to their advantage.
Looks like Wild Turtle, they're actually going to try to get this switch on as well. The Boots, as Reggie hits 2, maybe they'll switch this one out. He has not done it yet, but no, he's going to leave it 1. And he's going to be heading down to that lane, so he's going to go possibly up to level 3 Jinte right away.
They just want to get out of that situation as soon as possible. They don't really care that much about having really far behind laners. I mean, we saw yesterday when Dyrus was level 3 cruising through mid lane, and they just took it in stride and kept on winning the game, so it's the overall pressure that's fine. And they might be trying a 1, 2, 3, 4-man stack in mid lane right off the bat.
What's this? They say you're going to put everything mid. We'll put even more mid. Tit for tat here at 3 minutes into the game, and they look to be pressuring a mid turret, the objectives in the eyes of both of these teams.
Well, here's the thing. They see Daydreamin and Don't Mash Me mid, and they say, that's actually not a lot of wave clear. So if we're going to shove up your lane, we're thinking we're going to be able to get a lot down. Luckily, Nintendo X was there with a blue buff, and Nocturne can somewhat shove the lane in, so they were able to repel that. But I think it was a pretty good effort by TSM. Just turned out that Nintendo was there for the save.
Jinte has been crushing these waves down bottom. He came to lane with pots, mana, and health, and a ward to keep himself safe on that far push. Daydreamin trying to make some plays here just on the edge of X Special. Looks like they could get the gank from Nocturne. He flashes onto them. Can the tether connect? Odd One is just on the backside. He is always just in the wing. It looks like they may be able to turn this around on Daydreamin. The red proc is there. He flays to put them back and it only saves the rest of his team.
What an awesome counter gank by the Odd One. He landed Rupture on 3 and the Silence on 3, and that just wrecked them because Daydreamin went all in on the initiation, not realizing that the Odd One is always there for the counter gank.
They're trying to push off of this, and it's almost like I said, is Nintendo X going to focus them because the flash is down? Daydreamin tried to flash on top of them to create something from that.
I mean, that was the whole point that GGU tried the gank, is because they recognized there was a flash down and they wanted to punish, but that was this cascading disadvantage we just talked about,
exactly.
Which might be starting at this point. That's more resources burned to essentially dig themselves a deeper hole. They still don't have presence in this mid lane. Don't Mash Me is completely out of mana, but they can't actually leave because then they lose their mid turret and it would be even worse.
So this is getting scary for them. Nintendo Dex once again coming from the side. The red buff is there. If they can lock it down on X Special this time, it looks like it could be a kill, but Mashme gets himself too close. The headshot comes up from Turtle. They're going to probably trade 1-for-1 here, but the Odd One looks to make it in their favor. They start blowing the flashes for Good Game University. Daydreamin forced to walk out 1-for-1.
Wild Turtle doing his best to show that he's the best AD carry in Toronto and also North America along the way, because they're just continuing to keep this pressure, and he was just unfazed by the 3 people coming into his lane, knowing he would be able to finish off Don't Mash Me.
Ooh, Daydreamin trying to put some extra damage onto the Odd One. It's going to hurt his jungle a little bit, but I think he'll be able to stay out and not really worry since they're putting so much pressure on Good Game University.
And Odd One is due for a shopping trip anyway, because he's just sitting on that Butcher's Blade. He's got about 800, coming up on 900 gold right now. He spent so much time just counter-ganking, but it is really time to get some of those jungle items and gets going on Shogath.
So 3-1 coming in, and make mark, that kill went to Daydreamin, so it's really not helping to bolster the disadvantage, or help that disadvantage that they have right now. At 5 minutes, the gold lead already quickly 2,000 in favor of Team Solo Mid. It's come from these kills and just pressure onto Good Game University. No turrets yet.
TSM could not have hoped for a better opening. They play so well with these leads, and the thing we haven't even looked at is this Dyrus versus Zion Spartan lane up in the top. When Dyrus started Cloth, Pot, 5 armor, he actually was able to outlane Zion Spartan early despite the red elixir threat. So that is a tremendous job by Dyrus, actually even forcing Nintendo X to come up and hold while the Odd One shoves.
Looks like they get some good aggression onto this, knowing that Zion Spartan is back. They're going to go ahead and just push him off of this, knowing they're going to meet Zion soon, but still, it doesn't look like they're scared whatsoever. Level 6 Dyrus, they can get out anything right now.
Just trying to share the farm, really. The Odd One hasn't spent that much time jungling. The majority of the time has been spent waiting in the wings in these lanes, and it is paying off just so well. You can see how Zion Spartan is scared, and Nintendo X with Nocturne, usually a pretty good early game threat, has been completely neutralized just because the Odd One has been in the right place at all the right times.
And this is crazy. Team Solo Mid pushing mid. The Odd One still staying top. Reginald's bot, so they're creating pressure just with that.
And there's the ultimate from Reginald, just creating even more pressure because they just finished the top turret, but now there's aid required at the bottom because Reginald would be able to shove that one up and take yet another turret. This is just brilliant lane matching by TSM, knowing where their advantages are. It's in shove in mid lane. As soon as Don't Mash Me and Daydreamin try to 2v1, they just out-shoved them.
And it's in so many different ways they can do it, right? Usually you'd see a team using TF to go gank, but right now they're just saying, we don't need the kills. We're able to just crush down these and win each individual lane as they are.
And you do lose a little bit as Twisted Fate if you put yourself in the bottom lane, because you don't have the global threat anymore. You really can just go from your lane to probably the mid lane, and he's also fairly vulnerable in the long lane, but he's doing a great job.
We'll see Zion Spartan now trying to make some moves. He knows that at 3-1 right now, the blue buff coming back up. He wants to try to position himself around there, but I think he's only going to see that it gets traded over to Turtle.
And that's actually really potent there for Wild Turtle, because Caitlyn doesn't have the highest mana cost to begin with, but when you add the blue buff to that Piltover Peacemaker, it's now a 6.4 second cooldown, just nuke. You can almost think of Caitlyn right now as a caster in mid lane, spamming down the spells and completely clearing the waves. It's just going to create even more presence and freedom for TSM to do whatever they want on the map, because Don't Mash Me and Daydreamin are going to be sitting at the second turret, which is just so far away from any potential point of conflict in this mid-game that any move that TSM tries to make is going to be so difficult for GGU to actually respond to it.
You got to give credit to TSM as well, really understanding that they've played the waves against GGU in mid lane. Every time the wave has been pushed to the turret is when Daydreamin wants that gank and he walks past it, and the Odd One has read it every time. And they've stopped so far. They haven't even tried to gank there again. They know they just need to farm this one out because TSM is quite ahead already.
And here comes a Nocturne gank up top. Nintendo trying to make something happen.
Here they are. They get the one person out. The Ezreal ulti coming up as well, trying to get the assist. They would have gotten it, but they get the kill anyways.
That's the right place for Nintendo to gank. because Zion Spartan is the one who's been carrying them through most of these games, and they really needed to go that. Since they lost complete control of the mid lane, a gank there wouldn't have actually given them anything. But obviously when they gank up top like that, they expose the Dragon, and TSM's just taking what is rightfully theirs.
It's going to be nice and easy for them. Looks like Reginald will head towards the top lane and try to guard this turret a bit. He's going to be able to put some wave clear on it, but it looks like they are going to try to go all the way.
Yeah, Reggie's got to be a little bit careful here that Zion Spartan wouldn't jump on him, but he knows that Nintendo is out of mana and also just used his Q in the opposite direction, so there wasn't any immediate threat on Reginald, and he does a really good job defending that turret and making sure it's a Dragon for a kill, not a Dragon for a turret.
So let's see if these guys have used their first purchases accordingly. BF Sword's coming out, or BF Sword, I should say, just for Wild Turtle. It's a scepter in the hands of Don't Mash Me. He does not have 1 kill and 2 assists, and we see it's hurting him a little bit, going down in CS now as that mid lane getting pushed for the blue buff Turtle. Tears on to mid for Jinte on Oriana, and we see the Lichbane creation for Reginald already.
That is some early Shane action. It's the big thing, though, is the BF Sword on Wild Turtle just outmatching Don't Mash Me. Having that Caitlyn control is actually really big, and the fact that they're able to lock that one up, I think, is paying some big dividends.
And you usually see that a Twisted Fate will buy Sheen and then kind of swap over into his AP form.
He'll go for Lichbane, actually, is what I've been seeing a lot of, especially with the type of turret pressure that TSM is trying to apply this game.
All right, so he'll finish that out. Up top still has the fort pot, so they can go for a pretty strong engage here. The ultimates are up for Team Solo Mid as GGUs are down, so this could be scary for them. You can see them actually grouping for this engagement.
And it is such a tremendously long cooldown at rank 1 on that Nocturne. The Paranoia rank 1 cooldown is actually 173 seconds for him right now, so it's 180 without cooldown reduction.
Yep.
And it just means that their threat is so much lower right now, as TSM is just able to stack on this turret.
Pressuring down, gold cards being held by Reginald, just playing this one safe and cautious. The bottom lane, Cho'Gath versus, or I should say Odd One versus Jinte as they go back and forth. He's able to just sustain that one. So the pressure really working for Team Solo Mid here. They're dictating where GGU is moving.
Right, because TSM knows that they have 4 people locked up in the top lane, which means no one is farming mid. So Reginald is just waddling his way down there, able to get all those creeps completely for free. And since Odd One has spent so much time roaming and ganking him around, they're happy just letting him have that solo lane in the bottom, farming up and making sure he's strong on Cho'Gath as well. So everything is still going in TSM's favor so far.
Dyer's trying to get the Haunting guys in again, get that Leandries for late game built up. Not a lot of items coming out fast here, and not a slow farm game. The 80 carries are pretty much on average, but everybody else, you can definitely see that this lane movement has caused them to have lower CS.
There has been a huge amount of just transitional play. Even Reginald at the start of the game, making the fake to the bottom lane, coming back to the mid lane, doing the 4-man stack push, doing multiple 4-man stack pushes. There's just not as many minions to go around, because so many minions are actually just dying to other minions or turrets.
The lanes pushing themselves for once in a game as everybody finding face-to-face fights. And 10-Dude-X, like I said, Dyrus and him just kind of waving at each other here. Looks like Dyrus trying to get him harassed, smited away by Nintendude. Dragon's not up anytime soon, so he wanted his jungle.
And Dyrus tried to make a play there, couldn't really create anything huge, but Dyrus' lane phase, despite dying once, was actually quite strong. Early lane phase against Riven is quite difficult. Riven really likes to try to snowball lanes, and especially based on the pace of this game where there was so much action mid, how there was the Odd One sitting bottom a lot, that was as truest of a 1v1 lane as you are going to get.
Yep.
And when he came out, what I think is on top if you don't take into account ganks is quite impressive.
Absolutely. We see movement around in the inventories, and Nintendude-X picking up the Lizard Elder. Daydreaming looking to put some forward wards down. It's what GGU needs to do. It's not necessarily a snowball from TSM, but it does stop a few of the advantages they can push onto if they get those wards out here now.
GGU is trying to ward a little bit, but it's tricky to ward against Twisted Fate in a lot of these situations, especially since, you know, their mid turret is down, so they've had to keep a permanent ward almost on their mid turret if they don't want to get outplayed in any of those situations. And if they do team fight in this situation, it will be bad, because there's an Infinity Edge on Wild Turtle, whereas there's just a BF Sword on Don't Mash Me. That is an incredible item mismatch. That is what was a 12-minute Infinity Edge on Wild Turtle, so that is a heap of trouble for GGU.
That's 1,400 gold personally for Wild Turtle that he has on Don't Mash Me right now. So, was it still viable for Mash Me to go for the blue build, to go for the Iceborne Gauntlet, to go for that sort of build if he's not going to get the output and damage?
I think he's still going to do it.
Right.
It's his Ezreal build. He does the
it's going to assist the
Bloodthirster first,
right,
and then he'll usually go for the Iceborne Gauntlet after that, and then go Muramana as well. So it is a very, very potent Ezreal build, but in the games where it's been successful, he's actually won the laning phase. So
Okay.
we have yet to see how it transitions fully into these situations, but I feel like with all the success he's had on it previously, the early disadvantage isn't going to stop him from doing that build.
Well, he gets a bit of an increase in damage now as he can charge up the Bloodthirster. He won't be matching Wild Turtle just yet, but he can still sustain in the fight and keep that output going. Looking around the Fiendish Codex as well, going with the Cage's lucky pick for Jinte. Looks like Reginald's still piecing together that Lich Bane. They move it around. We got Spirit of the Ancient Golem on Odd One. He's been building it over and over again, just really enjoying that item on his tanky junglers.
He loves that item now, and it's a little bit strange because the Odd One has traditionally just built the Aegis and the Locket of the Iron Solari, but he likes that item so much. It does add a lot to his just overall Cho'Gath play, making him that true tank for his team, especially when they run it with Rumble and don't really have the double tank. He needs it to be able to contribute in that way, and Reggie might be looking for a bit of a dive or turret push here.
He is creeping down the backside. They have him on the ward, so they are definitely hightailing it out of there in the bottom lane. A turret goes down for the third one on the match. 20 seconds for Dragon, so this pressure being created here is TSM trying to focus that.
And GGU is just doing their best to try to keep up in the farm. Domashmi's using his ultimate to clear the waves. He's just trying to stack up that Bloodthirster, and they caught Reggie in a little bit of a roam there because that turret at bottom honestly would have fallen if Reggie was or was not there. But just because of the persistent threat from TSM, GGU has to back up in almost all situations.
Eye for an eye, ward for a ward goes down as Dragon is up on the map. You can see Zion Spartan putting a hurt down. He has that wind slash up. Can he put it down? It's not going to be enough to take down Dyrus. He wanted a few more auto attacks, but Scrap Shield keeps him safe. So 16 minutes in here, we do see Dyrus off, and they may try to pressure some Dragon if they want to go for it.
And I think what's going to happen here for GGU is they're going to be going for the turret because they really want the global gold. Having Reginald cheat up towards the top makes me think there's a bit of indecision on TSM right now. They really want to keep this turret edge as their form of map control, so whether they go for Dragon or whether they go to defend this turret will really tell us how TSM's playing this one.
Well, you can see Reggie kind of splitting himself between wolves. He says, I'll get gold out of the situation, and then I'll be there for my team and whatever I need to be. Top goes down, but they don't go for Dragon. They're pushed off of that. They're happy with one. Nothing.
I think it's just a matter of time, though, because look where Dyrus came out of the base with. He's ran mid instead of running top, which tells me TSM's either going to try to get a kill in mid here or just peel off for the Dragon because they've sent Reggie top to shove, and if they go quickly, they'll know that Zion Spartan can't be there.
Moving down, TSM looks to grab their second Dragon of the game. They had the timer on the first one. We had pings from GGU, but the turret just gives them enough. They don't want to contest it. Well, almost.
They tried to steal it, but you're not getting the Odd One's Dragon when he's a feasting Cho'Gath with Smite. And that was very well played by TSM. They manipulated the map. They realized that Zion Spartan was trapped top, and they knew that if Reggie would have went top to fully defend that, or if Dyrus would have tried to come back, the turret was too low and it was going to go down anyway. So they completely secured the Dragon by having Dyrus run out the mid lane and just have a presence.
Wow, so it seems like Team Solo Mid feels like something may be slipping, or they just want to push their aggressions even more. An Oracle buy coming out of 17 minutes. They want to wipe GGU's vision now. This
is their move, I suppose. It's Twisted Fate. GGU's been trying to just farm out the waves.
Yeah.
And I think they're definitely trying to slow down either Don't Mash Me or Jinte's farm, because you can't safely farm the mid lane if there's completely no wards and you already are missing that one turret. So right now I feel like it's the jungle control, and they're trying to just squeeze GGU into a tighter and tighter ball as TSM farms the rest of the map. And the Oracles, if they do it right, will help them make that happen.
GGU looks to have a lot of wards in their inventory right now, so we'll probably see those go down before this next fight. Positioning of those champions are towards the top side of the map. Since Dragon is down, probably going to see them farming that out. Pressure TSM from a choke point that they can find. See, Special throwing down the Oracles, like you said, if they don't have the wards in mid, a little bit harder to farm.
And they're all just pushed right back to their turret here. The interesting thing, though, is the GGU has multiple people maybe split pushing, and this would threaten a TSM 5-person dive. They're not afraid to dive. That is one thing about TSM. They end games quickly, and that's why almost immediately GGU was sending Don't Mash Me there as well. But that still means Riven's bottom, so here it comes.
There, Reginald goes into the fight, actually. Doesn't even have his Zanyas yet. He puts himself in the fray. A shot from Ace in the hole. Takes down JG from Wild Turtle. Looks like Nintendo may be able to pick one up here. He gets the shield safety, and they may continue this fight. Mash Me shifts into the fight. He gets hardcore. CC'd. Taken down by Reginald's team. Wild Turtle comes up with a double kill. They take the turret as well, 5-3 at 18 minutes.
I'm amazed that Reginald didn't die to that last turret shot, but I think a last-second heal came from X Special, which really saved it, which turns it into a 2-for-1 and a turret. That was very close to actually being over-aggression by TSM, but they had just enough confidence and just enough execution to come out of that one on top.
So Reginald actually right into the Zonias out of that Sheen. Maybe finish on Lich Bane now once he can get her on the team. And he did that without the Lich Bane. He kind of pulled out Pole Belter there.
Yeah, I think you're right about the Reginald build. Sometimes they'll go for the Lich Bane, but at least with the way Reginald plays TF, since he loves to initiate with it, getting the lockdown on that Zhonya's Hourglass is so much more important. He will just go in, get the stun, then disappear for 2 seconds and wait for the rest of his team to arrive, and I think that's absolutely the right buy for him in this situation because it fits his playstyle and the state that we're in the game right now.
And really, coming in, we've heard Xpecial say it, Wild Turtle's more aggressive as well, and that gives the entire team something we've seen teams not be able to do, is catch up to that guy who's trying to initiate so deep in. We saw, as you said, it was kind of the bane of the Cursed game last time. St. Vicious dives in. Where'd you guys go? Where'd you guys go? So, yeah, having that Zonias, having that time really allows the aggression to just spill over for Team Solo Mid.
I think it's something for Team Solo Mid that's actually worked out so well for them since they made the Wild Turtle for a Chaos swap, because they have one very clear and defining voice on the team now, and that's Reginald. So when he goes in, even if he's like flash alting people on Diana 1,800 units ahead of the team, if they're like, we're going, it's like, well, yeah, we are, and they'll just all follow him in.
We'll be there in a second.
It's like, well, we got your back, man. And it really shows when they go for turret dives like that. They're one of the only teams that can actually execute them that well. I mean, even yesterday in the semifinals, we saw that ridiculous clip of TSM. It was in the top lane, just 4 people behind the turret. Essentially just dirty farming the wave right back there and stopping them from coming through. And that's just because everyone trusts Reginald, even if it seems absolutely insane.
All right, we are already back into the game. Reginald insane? That kind of fits his play style. We'll see what they can do. 20 minutes in here as we get to that minute in the game. 5-3 is the score. 5,000 is the gold lead. So Team Solo Mid has been able to hold on to their lead consistently. They found both dragons in the game here. After a quick pause, we are back into the action and back into the first game of the championship best of 5 series.
And we talked about Don't Mash Me going for that Muramana build with the Iceborne Gauntlets. He's working on it, so he's stacking his tier up right now, but in the games where it has been successful, they've had a lead and he's had the time to stack up that tier. At this point, he is behind, and there is a Wild Turtle with an Infinity Edge and a Phantom Dancer pushing up the mid lane, and a TSM team that is very willing to dive and not going to give, potentially, Don't Mash Me the window to farm that thing up. So when TSM recognizes that he's gone for the tier and is on the way to that build, they're not going to let him complete it if they have anything to say about it.
Special making his way over for a little bit of harass and wardage to make sure they know what's going on in the minds of GGU right now. GGU having to remember to do all the little things as well. You can't get complacent. Yes, there are a lot of games to be played here, but we've heard the players say before, there's never a moment that you just want to think about the next game. It's all about the game you're in right now, and GGU is finding a way to push TSM off of their turrets here.
They're really trying to keep him back, and a lot of it has to do with Sound Spartan just doing the split push. But once again, the split push, as everything else is more effective when you're ahead. So they're really desperately trying to hope TSM doesn't dive them. But TSM is willing to dive. They have about a 5-second window where they could actually go for this. But if they're just going to give up the turret, TSM's going to take it.
Yeah, they would love to get that gold in their pocket, especially Wild Turtle. We said he has 2 core items in and about 4 to 5 core items alone. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items. And it's only been a few core items finished over on the side of GGU. So the gold is just showing in the inventories as well as the pushes.
Sound Spartan obviously hasn't been able to finish his Bloodthirster yet, despite all the split pushing. The Archangel Staff for Jinte, even though he wants to transform into the Seraph's Embrace, is still at 476. Obviously, we talked earlier, they have a couple tier items on the go. Don't Mash Me is not even close to when you get a Muramana, turning it into a Mana Mune, being able to turn it into a Muramana. So it really is a matter of TSM pushing the tempo as they do so well. GGU doing a really good job, I think, so far holding it off, but against a team like TSM here, coming up mid again, TF Alt going down, there's their window.
He's going to lock it down. They go over towards the Wraith area, and it looks like a little bit of safety here. Daydreaming gets caught. The damage is coming in. Reginald could be safe with the Zonias. They finalize the kill. Another one to Wild Turtle now, 4-0-2.
Ultimate down from Reggie. Kill TSM, and they relentlessly push up the mid lane. They lost almost nothing for that. Reginald's flash is actually going to be up in a second or two, and this turret is in a lot of trouble.
They don't have too many minions. They're going to back off of this. They do have the Dragon, however, to chomp up for Odd One.
Well, they do have Wild Turtle now, so they can take things slow and steady every once in a while. And it is a free Dragon, I suppose. They had such a short death timer on Daydreaming because he was only level 9. So it is the smart move for him. There was a large wave stacking in the bottom as well that Reginald's going to clean out. So they're just continuing their farm, continuing their pressure advantage, and that's now a over 7,000 gold lead.
Wild Turtle still pressuring middle. Let's see what buffs are up for anybody. Looks like everything has been cleared out here, and not too many people on GGU have their own. We'll see Odd One and Dyrus, or just rather Dyrus going back to his jungle to farm up as we see how much gold everyone has after these fights. So it's almost 2K gold on a 4-0-2 Wild Turtle right now. So he, with the Infinity Edge Phantom Dancer, looks to go back, probably finish up his last Whisper, and really just start putting down the pain.
And Turtle is just the gold lord, as far as I can tell. He's been top GPM ever since he joined the LCS, and having 10,000 gold at 23 minutes is just absurd to me. Like, I look at most of the top players, like average golds in your League of Legends, like PvP.net stats.
Yeah.
Most people, if they're good, average 10,000 gold a game. Wild Turtle averages 14,000 gold a game in the LCS and has 10,000 at 23 minutes. It's crazy.
I'm going to talk to his accountant. Absolutely.
Find my way into that money.
8,000 gold in favor of Team Solo Mid right now. Wild Turtle hogging all of it. 5-2 in turrets. It's GGU looking to pressure any advantage that they can find, and that would be a mistake from Team Solo Mid. Those are far and few between, so they are really looking to thread the needle here with that.
And Wild Turtle's now hit his 3-item threshold. This is the thing you need to get to really as an AD carry. This is pretty much always your goal. You want your big AD item, you want your Phantom Dancer for your attack speed and crit, or Static Shiv, and then you want your last Whisper to make sure that even if a tank dives you, you're going to just obliterate them. And this is the moment where, even though TSM's been pressing the whole game, where they press even harder because they can win a huge fight here if they get it.
So we see the Lich Bane being finished up on Reginald's. We've had the Morello Namicon and the Archangel staff finished for quite a bit, along with the Lizard Elder and the Locket of the Iron Solari. And we actually have a switch between that because Odd One actually going for the Bulwark for his team this game.
It's a smart move. Odd One likes that item on Shogath. He's already got so much health and tankiness already. And just making sure they don't get spiked down by any types of Orianna ults. And there's... Oh, Reggie, come on, man.
Goes after the guy that can run the farthest. Reginald gets some damage down, and he actually only hit Jinte with 2 of his spells, and that's Jinte below half health.
So, unfortunately, Reggie missed his flash over the wall, but he still just obliterated the health on Jinte, and TSM might just push this out of spite, being like, yeah, we can just beat you without landing flashes.
So good. These guys are joshing back and forth about it, saying, Flash, 10 out of 10. Nice job, Mashmi, getting out of that one. As they go back and forth, they're having a good time during the championship matchup, but they still want the gold. 25 minutes in, they're pressuring the turret, and TSM is bearing down on GGU right now. The experience weighing so heavy on them.
And this is the choice for TSM. If they land a good Rupture, if X Special sees a situation and do a flash crescendo, they could try to dive, or they could try to peel back and control around Baron. There was that Oracles that was spent earlier on X Special. He has it for about another minute and a half if TSM wants to completely clear out the jungle wards here and then maybe try to force GGU into a jungle fight. That would be the situation that TSM wants the most, I think.
They're roaming around with the Oracles, making sure they have the advantage if they get that jungle fight. Rumble in the jungle is definitely some painful stuff to work with. Dyrus to be in the first one out. Will they throw down the equalizer? He's got to clear across them, but they're just going to walk out.
But when GGU runs away in this direction, it leaves a window for TSM to just run straight up the mid lane because they're too far away from the base. They can't fight them. They have to recall all the way back and then run back.
They have, in fact, laid out the welcome mat here. Reginald's going to kick some dirt on it, and they say, we'll take Baron.
TF ult going down to make sure he knows where they are, and they're just rushing for this Baron. I wonder if they're going to try to take this one down because surely GGU must know where TSM is headed.
They have wards all the way up to the Baron pit. It's going to be a tight one if Nintendo Dex is going to steal this. He's not even going to attempt it. They are really going to have to put up the Riot Shield on this one.
They ran for that one so fast, and because they knew that GGU, when I think about it, X Special previously about a minute ago had went through the whole jungle and made sure GGU had no vision. So when the TF ult went down, GGU was thinking they know exactly where they are, and if they want to spring a trap force in the jungle, they can. So if GGU ran through for as good as they know, TSM would have just 5-man ace them and then taken the Baron. So GGU's best percentage play was to just let TSM do what they want and hope that TSM was actually waiting in the brush and not doing Baron. But Reginald had the call, and they got the Baron.
We've seen it. We saw it happen in the past few games, right? You have to give your opponent the advantage to find your advantage. It's kind of scary.
Give them the advantage to find the advantage.
It's what they're doing.
Makes perfect sense.
It scarily does.
Good job, Ray.
28 minutes in, 6-3. True Shot Barrage going across. They didn't lose too much of the wave clear there. They still have Dustbringer, Jinte on Orianna as well. It looks like they're going to clear that out. Look at just how confident TSM is. Just Baron bolstering them for the next fight, and they are taking turret shots one after the other.
TSM's in their element right now. They love being ahead in games like this, and they are so good at going in coordinated. That's just one shot, half of your health. Now they know he's shifting back to base, so when the next wave arrives, they could either initiate in or just take the entire turret.
That Lichbane damage crushing down the turret as well from Reginald. Oddone's going to stay up in front. Can't do much with Jinte's ball here. He gets crushed out. They flash into the fight. The crescendo on the back. Nintendo and Mashme and the rest of the team forced to back off. The inhibitor will go down here 28 minutes in, and TSM isn't losing much health on this invade.
Didn't even have to fight. They just destroyed Jinte before that fight happened. Daydreamin tried to have the hook on Odd One, but that didn't do anything. It was just a giant monster that you've leashed onto. It's like, no, I do not want to catch that thing. Go away. And they end up losing their inhibitor.
Throw it back in the ocean is what he said, but it stayed in the boat for a little too long. Mashme looking to farm himself back up again, losing a bit of that damage every time he dies. He stayed alive in that last fight, so he'll be good for now. Almost getting to that Muramana. He is up to about 532 out of that 750, so he's getting there. That Seraph's Embrace has been finished, though, on Jinte.
And Wild Turtle also used the last shred of his gold to build an Executioner's Calling, which actually is like a mid-tier item as far as the scale of expensive 80 item goes. It gives, a lot of people don't build this item, it gives 25 attack damage and 20% critical strike. But when someone like an 80 carry builds that item, it tells you that they are going for the end of the game soon, because they're not planning on hitting 6 items. And this tells me that this next push that TSM goes on might be an attempt at their final.
See what kind of dangerous position they can put GGU in. A straight through the base will absolutely show how strong TSM feels in this, but we'll have to see if they try to strategically position themselves a few moves ahead. Looks like they are splitting the lanes right now to figure out what they can do to throw GGU more out of their comfort zone just for the beginning of this fight.
And TSM has a minute left on this Baron, so that is the next 2 waves of creeps. They're going to try to get as much turret or threat down on the first wave if they don't see a perfect catch, and then if they got enough harass down the first wave, they'd go in for the kill on the second. So really, this is a 2-wave attack for them.
Jinte trying to zone out with the ball, but they're just walking right by it. There's the True Shot Barrage once again, will not be used as a nuke in the fight, but really, he's not going to be putting out that much damage with the build just yet. Blue buff is on to Mashme. They're going for the first turret. Yeah. They're going to go for the inhibitor. It looks like they will just keep going. No, there's the ultimate in. Paranoia rather coming in on a special. He gets a crescendo off before it all ends. The equalizer is just burning down the team. Daydreaming was walking in it the whole time. Mashme forced out of the fight as well. He is the only one that stays alive because he gets shift from blue buff.
And take a look at Wild Turtle's health right now. As the ace comes through, Reginald dies for the children at the end of the day. He suicides, and that'll be $100 donated to the Boston Marathon relief efforts. But Wild Turtle, because he built that item and had the extra lifesteal, stayed alive in that fight. Great finish by TSM.
They're going to take down the turret. First game in a best-of-5 series as they breathe a quick sigh, prepare themselves for Game 2. GGU looks to find themselves a win against TSM here coming into Game 2.
Only 31 minutes is all it took for TSM. They know it's a long road to the finals, but that is a great start.
You can see the smile on their face. They are quite happy, but every time you play a game in a series, the other team now has a little bit more homework on you. They know what felt comfortable that game, and it's going to be different the second time around.
And GGU has been able to bounce back in a lot of these games. They've lost 1 game in each of their best-of-3s that have been part of their remarkable run to the finals here. They started the season 2-12, so if anyone knows how to come back from losses, it's GGU.
You can see them kind of sitting quietly, not discussing anything just yet. I think they're personally taking in, you know, what was considered in their lane, how much their lane, you know, that gold, the grass, the ratios they can look at right now and really consider, maybe I should have done this differently.
And that was one of the games where nothing went right for GGU, even from the very start. Reginald flashed and got the first blood catch on them. Then they followed in with a great counter gank. So that was just a game where GGU has a lot of things to look at.
Yeah, and we have a quick replay as well from our first match of this series.
And this was really one of the game-changing tower dives for TSM. They popped the Reggie ult in and just went. And this was the situation where multiple people on TSM got super low, but nobody died. Caitlyn all came through. Nintendo Dex died for Dyrus here. But then watch Reggie, actually. He goes in, I believe, for the extra kill on Domash, but he draws tower aggro, and somehow that last turret shot didn't kill him. Barely getting away, gets the 2v1 2 for 1 and the turret, and they just kept the pressure up from there.
It was an amazing first game by Team Solo Mid, showing strength. GGU now to rethink their strategy coming into this matchup, possibly through picks and bans. Like we said, these teams share a lot of those in champion pools, so we'll have to see. Coming up, Team Solo Mid looks to make it 2 in a row against Good Game University, plus Complexities probably helps us break down the title match. The North American LCS Championship Finals continues right after this.